everyone. I'm Kimberly Austin, and joining me is, hey, my first repeat guest, Nikki Van Noy. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
I wish I could be there with you in Boston because you are now the author of this authorized biography, New Kids on the Block, 5 Brothers and a Million Sisters. And if I was there, we would be doing the right stuff choreography right now.
Absolutely.
And look what I found in my basement.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, there you
What
go.
was that doing in your basement? Just out of curiosity.
I really can't explain it.
It's just there.
It was there. It's with my few collectible toys that we have, like our Pee-wee cherry and things like that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, now I've given away way too much information. So you're a Boston girl. Was this like the coolest assignment ever?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there were a lot of things that were appealing about it to me, but that's one of them. Was I moved to Boston in '95. So in writing this, I sort of got a history about Boston because it was so different in the 80s when they were growing up.
These guys really came from some hard knock life. You know, Dorchester, everybody will admit to the fact that Dorchester was a tough neighborhood. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And when they were growing up, it was in a time of great transition too, because busing had started in Boston. And a lot of people were up in arms about it because there was racial tension, but also parents just didn't want their kids to have to go out of the neighborhood to go to school. So it was definitely a pivotal time here and a difficult time, I think. But the guys, all looking back, really appreciate that they came up at that time because they grew up in a very diverse world where there wasn't a lot of prejudice. They were exposed to everybody.
Yeah, and they are really street smart too. Not only from the lifestyle that they led, but from within their own families. They all grew up in these gigantic families, you know, jockeying for position. So they kind of got savvy real fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Massive families. The smallest family was a family of 6. That's the small New Kids family. So yeah.
That's pretty incredible. So I love in the book when you're talking about Donnie meeting Maurice Starr, who, just for anybody who doesn't know, Maurice Starr was the mastermind behind New Edition, another phenomenal Boston group, which of course these guys all knew and loved and were inspired by. But Donnie was onto him from the beginning. And I love that he and Joe, in fact, keep saying how jive he was.
Yes, I know. The word jive comes up a lot in this book. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it ended up affecting them so much because Maurice worked with New Edition and really was looped into the sort of black music scene here. That's where they came up. They started off very much as an R&B group, which I think a lot of people don't know, and part of the media story about them is that they were specifically packaged and marketed for a white girl adolescent audience, and nothing could actually be further from the truth.
That blew my mind. When you talked about them playing at the Apollo on amateur night, come on. I mean, that's taking your life in your own hands at that point. But they got a standing ovation.
Yeah, I mean, it's hardcore. And listening to all of them and some of their parents talk about it was fascinating because it's all these years later and you can still see them light up. I mean, it just seems like it was such a profound moment for them, understandably so.
And it was such a weird twist of fate too, that they did not technically crossover, but did become the white audience marketing machine with just a little Florida DJ playing Please Don't Go Girl.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's another interesting thing too, is there was a lot more grassroots than people give it credit for. And at the time, the Florida DJ picked up Please Don't Go Girl, which had already been released to BET and to the R&B stations. It was flopping and they were done. I mean, this was like at the last minute they were saved and their history was kind of allowed to keep going.
They went on to sell 80 million records. I mean,
yeah, they were huge.
You know, you weren't there at the time necessarily, but looking in your research, they were huge worldwide. But what was it like in Boston?
So I can tell you what I've heard, and that is that the guys themselves didn't get to experience being famous in Boston really because they were on the road. And they kind of talk about that in the book, how, you know, Maurice got to be in Boston and be seeing them in the headlines and, you know, picking up girls and stuff like that. and they never really got to taste what it was like to be big in their hometown. The other thing is, you know, I talked to a few fans that were around from before they broke big nationally. And I mean, both the fans and some of the guys make it clear too that part of Boston's personality is, you know, keeping everyone from here in check. You don't get too big for your britches. So I think that that was, you know, an element of how they were treated here also.
But man, did they get love in the Fenway gig that they did last year. And what a beautiful way to open the book, Nikki.
Yeah, that was an amazing moment to get to be there for, because it was so full circle. You know, so few bands to start off with get to play Fenway, and to see a hometown band come, and especially with their story where they were broken up for so long, it was just a great, great moment.
Yeah, how bizarre is that? You know, you don't see anybody come back after a 15-year time period off. And in fact, I don't know if you happen to see it, but recently 98 Degrees reunited for a little bit, and they were on the Today Show, and they were one of the best a cappella singing groups. They really did have a tight harmony. They were a really good group, but man, you could tell it was over. The time had expired. It was just not going to happen. But what is it about these guys?
You know, it's such a strange thing, because this isn't supposed to happen. Like the part of being a pop band is it's very youth based. You know, you appeal to a fickle audience. There's such an anomaly. And it's unfortunately a really intangible thing. It's hard to explain. They just have a connection with their fans. I mean, it sort of goes both ways. I think that for a lot of their fans, the New Kids are sort of this amazing way now to go back to a really sort of simple, innocent time, but live it as an adult. It's hard to explain, but it really, I mean, it's a very unique thing, I think.
Yeah, and you draw this great parallel, actually. And your other book, your Dave Matthews book, So Much to Say, also a great book, everybody. You draw this parallel between them and a jam band.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you would never expect it. There is, with the New Kids, such a back and forth between their audience. And although there might be one, off the top of my head, I can't think of another pop group that has that. It is more of a jam band thing. I think the other thing that's interesting about the New Kids is, as much as their fans have always been part of the story for their entire history, when they were big the first time, they were so big and their fans were so young that they couldn't be as connected to them. You know, it was like mania wherever they went. So it is very interesting that it's like this now.
Do you think it really would have happened to this level without social media and those cruises? Those cruises are genius.
Yeah, they are. You know, I don't know. I think that it helps. I know that obviously the fans love social media because the guys are all over it. You get this one-on-one interaction. But you know, Jordan Knight, one of the New Kids, talks about how much they love social media, especially because of where they've been, where the first time around they had no control over the media. They couldn't get their own messaging out there. You know, they just didn't have that opportunity, and now they can do it. So I think that they appreciate it maybe more than some people do, because they know what life is like without it.
Yeah, I mean, as an artist, that's an amazing gift to have that control in your own hands at this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. And if you are on Twitter, you may be lucky enough to get a tweet that you're meeting at Waffle House. Have you done this, Nikki?
I haven't done this. No, I've heard about it. I by the time I started writing the book, I think there weren't as many Waffle Houses, but yeah, there were these like crazy congregations at the Waffle House with Donnie sort of leading things. So yeah, there are lots of opportunities to get up close and personal to them these days.
New Kids are holding church out down at the Waffle House.
Exactly.
And can we just back up to the beginning? Because was that not the worst band name in the history of band names? Ninook? What? Thank God that went away.
No idea. That name means absolutely nothing. Who knows what corner of Maurice's head it came from, but it's probably a very good thing that it went away.
Do you think at all, too, now that there has been this passage of time, that they're able to look at things a bit differently? Like if you'd written this book 15 years ago, the story might be different.
Yeah. Absolutely. One thing Joe McIntyre said that really stuck out to me is he said, people always ask them, how did you survive the downfall? And he says, thank God for the downfall. They really seem to genuinely look at it as having had an opportunity to go do their own thing and figure out what life was like away from this band, and then come back and appreciate it, as an adult, and having had space. I mean, they spent a lot of their really formative years in this cloistered environment, just the five of them. And I think it's great that they are friends, and they definitely cherish the fact that they got to share that experience. But anyone with a sibling can tell you, you want to get away and do your own thing after a certain point.
So where do you see them going now? They're just going to keep it going?
I think so. They're recording a new album now. I mean, all of them, first of all, they didn't know what to expect when they came back at all. I think that they went into it knowing they would work hard and just kind of willing to see what was going to happen. All of them now talk about this as a career. I think that the bond is there. They're having fun, and the pressure's not there that was there the first time. They can have their own lives and do this too. So it's a totally different situation than it once was.
Well, congratulations on the book. Even if you're not a New Kids fan, this book is phenomenal. There's such great music history in here. It's a great story of five guys who just came together by happenstance and turned into a pop supergroup. Phenomenal book, Nikki. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.